An archaeoastronomer points his instruments at the central axis of a jungle-buried temple in the Yucatan. The reading stops him cold. The sightline of that structure points directly at Thuban, the star that held true north in 3000 BCE. Across the Atlantic, 10,000 kilometers away, the shafts inside the Great Pyramid of Giza were aimed at the same star during the same era. Two civilizations, no known contact, the same star. The instrument screen holds the number. No explanation follows. That Yucatan temple is not an isolated case. Across 6 continents and 40 centuries, the most durable structures ever built share one obsession. They face the sky with surgical precision. Stonehenge's heel stone catches the June solstice sunrise at azimuth 51.2 degrees. A figure that holds across every modern instrument check. The Pyramid of Khafre at Giza faces true north to within 0.05 degrees, an accuracy that challenged 20th century surveying teams equipped with theodolites. Angkor Wat's western entrance aligns with the spring equinox sunrise to within a fraction of a degree across a roughly 350-meter causeway built to make that sightline unavoidable. These cultures never met. They shared no written tradition, no trade route, no common language. The pattern is not coincidence. It is engineered repetition. Set aside the mythology for a moment and look at what Egyptian surveyors actually built with. The merkhed was a sighting bar paired with a plumb line. An astronomer aligned it with a circumpolar star and tracked when that star crossed the meridian. By bisecting the arc that star traced across the night sky, they identified true north. No magnetic compass, no GPS, no calculus. The Great Pyramid of Giza sits aligned to true north within 3 arc minutes, an error of 1/20th of a single degree. That is 0.05 degrees off from perfect. Surveyors using modern theodolites in the 20th century struggled to match it. These were systematic, empirical observers, working methodically across generations, correcting their instruments, refining their results. Their accuracy was not accidental. The modern division between astronomy and religion did not exist in the ancient world. The sky was infrastructure, the operating system of agriculture, governance, and survival. In Egypt, every summer a single star climbed above the eastern horizon just before dawn. The Egyptians called it Sopdet. We call it Sirius. Its annual heliacal rising, the first morning it becomes visible after weeks of absence, announced that the Nile flood was coming within days. Miss that signal and your fields go unplanted. Track it precisely and your civilization survives. The star was not a religious symbol. It was a deadline. Monuments aligned with Sirius were not built to express belief. They were built to preserve a calculation, carved in stone to outlast every papyrus scroll ever written. Egyptian cosmology placed Ra on a solar bark that crossed the sky by day and descended into the underworld each night. Death and rebirth on a 24-hour cycle. Temples built in Ra's honor were not decorated with solar imagery. They were mechanically aimed at the sun, engineered to perform a specific optical event. On February 22nd and October 22nd, the rising sun drives light 65 meters through the temple, striking statues in the innermost sanctuary. The statues of Ra and Ramesses II glow in the sunlight. Ta, god of the underworld, sits to one side and remains in shadow. The Inca emperor did not merely worship the sun, he was the sun, Inti made flesh, ruling 12 million people from Cusco. From the Coricancha, the Golden Sun Temple at Cusco's heart, 41 sacred pathways called Seke lines radiated outward across the surrounding landscape. Each sek terminated at a horizon point, a position where the sun, moon, or Pleiades rose or set at a specific moment in the agricultural year. This was not architectural symbolism. The Sake system was a working calendar. It told farmers across the Andes precisely when to plant maize, potatoes, and quinoa. He controlled the harvest. He controlled survival itself. The sky was not his religion. It was his instrument of power. Stonehenge was not built in a single generation. It accumulated across roughly 1,500 years of deliberate returning effort, from approximately 3000 BCE through 1500 BCE. The bluestones in Stonehenge's inner ring were quarried in the Priestley Hills of Wales and hauled over 140 miles to reach Salisbury Plain. That is 225 kilometers, overland and likely by water through terrain that offers no easy path. These were not small stones. Each one weighed between 2 and 5 metric tons. Someone made the decision to move them anyway, not once, repeatedly, across generations of effort. Each bluestone weighs 2 to 5 metric tons. They crossed Wales overland and by sea. No wheels, no roads, no machines. The Sarsen trilithons averaged 25 metric tons each. In its second phase, the monument locked its central axis onto the midsummer solstice sunrise and the midwinter solstice sunset simultaneously. Generations of builders returned to correct the alignment. The sky did not change. They kept adjusting until the stone matched it exactly. Angkor Wat covers 162.6 hectares, 4 times Vatican City's footprint. Suryavarman II ordered its construction in 1113 CE. The last stone settled into place around 1150. Every major Khmer temple before it faced east toward the rising sun. Angkor Wat faces west. The western orientation was the design. On the spring equinox, an observer standing at the western gate watches the sun rise directly above Angkor Wat's central tower. The tower represents Mount Meru, the 5-peaked sacred mountain at the center of Hindu and Buddhist cosmology. The entire temple complex was designed as a physical map of that cosmic order. The alignment is not incidental. The western orientation, the causeway length, the tower height, they were calculated to make this moment happen on this specific morning every year. The causeway at Angkor Wat runs nearly 350 meters. On the spring equinox, a viewer standing at the western entrance watches the sun rise directly over the central tower. The same axis that frames that sunrise also captures the full arc of the equinox day. The geometry was not built for a single moment. It was built to anchor the entire solar event to a fixed point in stone. The Khmer builders did not approximate this. The causeway length, the tower height, the western orientation, all of it converges on that morning every year without adjustment. The building does not represent the cosmos, it performs it. A working instrument, still running its calculation twice every year since around 1150. Between roughly 200 BCE and 600 CE, the Nazca people of southern Peru etched one of the most perplexing engineering projects in the ancient world into the desert floor. The geoglyphs cover an area of approximately 450 square kilometers of the Pampa Colorada, a vast wind-stripped plateau where the dry climate has preserved every line almost exactly as it was made. Some lines run perfectly straight for kilometers, others trace recognizable forms. A hummingbird, a spider, a condor with a wingspan of over 130 meters. The Nazca did not build monuments that reached into the sky. They drew on the earth and aimed the drawings at it. They drew around 300 geometric figures, 70 animals, and more than 800 kilometers of straight lines, all without lifting the design from the ground to check it. Maria Reiche mapped these figures from the 1940s onward, proposing that many lines point toward key astronomical horizon events, the setting of the Pleiades, solstice sunrise directions. The figures themselves, the condor, the monkey, the spiral, are only fully visible from aircraft altitude. The Nazca had no aircraft. These lines were built for a perspective the builders could never occupy. The only eyes positioned to read the full design belonged to whatever the Nazca believed watched from above. The sky is not fixed. Earth's rotational axis traces a slow circle against the background stars, one full cycle every 25,772 years. That drift, called precession, Shifts which star sits at celestial north over millennia. In 3000 BCE, the pole star was Thuban in the constellation Draco. Polaris, the star we call the North Star today, was nowhere near that position. When archaeoastronomers recalibrate ancient monument alignments to their construction era, something precise emerges. Alignments that appear random today snap into precision when the stars are returned to where they stood at the moment of construction. The four shafts inside the Great Pyramid locked onto specific stars at the moment of construction. The southern shaft of the King's Chamber aimed at Orion's Belt. The northern shaft of the King's Chamber aimed at Thuban, the pole star of 2500 BCE. The southern shaft of the Queen's Chamber targeted Sirius. The northern shaft of the Queen's Chamber pointed at Beta Ursa Minoris. Those stars no longer occupy those positions. Precession has moved them. The builders didn't record the sky as they found it in their own lifetimes. They encoded the sky of a specific moment, aimed stone at it with arc-minute precision, and sealed that calculation inside 2.3 million blocks of limestone. The pyramid is not a tomb that happens to face stars. It is a fixed coordinate, a stone timestamp pointed at a sky that no longer exists above it. The implications of that date remain aggressively contested among researchers. The alignment data is real. What it encodes is not settled. In southeastern Turkey, near the city of Şanlıurfa, local farming families had long known about carved stones protruding from a hillside at Göbekli Tepe. They reported the findings to a regional museum. The site appeared briefly in a 1963 survey by the University of Chicago and Istanbul University and was catalogued, then set aside. German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt arrived in 1994. He recognized immediately that what the locals had been describing for decades was not a medieval cemetery, not a Byzantine ruin. The T-shaped limestone pillars emerging from the hillside were Neolithic, monumental, deliberate. Schmidt committed the rest of his career to the site. What he began excavating pushed the known timeline of organized monumental construction back by roughly 6,000 years to approximately 9600 BCE. Nothing in the accepted model of human development at that period was supposed to be capable of this. What came out of the ground rewrote the timeline. Göbekli Tepe dates to the end of the last ice age. Older than agriculture, older than pottery, older than any settled civilization previously thought capable of monument construction. It predates Stonehenge by more than 6,000 years. The enclosures excavated so far are ringed by T-shaped limestone pillars reaching up to 5.5 meters tall and weighing up to 10 metric tons each. Multiple enclosures have been uncovered. Geophysical survey data suggests many more remain buried in the hillside. These were not modest markers. They were engineered monuments, cut, shaped, and raised by people who, by every prior assumption, should not have been doing this. The people who built Göbekli Tepe predate any confirmed agricultural society in the region. The archaeological evidence indicates they were hunter-gatherers. No domesticated crops, no evidence of permanent settlement at the site itself. They gathered, they hunted, and yet they organized the quarrying, shaping, and raising of limestone pillars up to 16 metric tons each. The monument exists before the revolution that was supposed to make monuments possible. Researcher Giulio Magli proposed that specific pillar pairs align with the rising position of Sirius as it appeared in the southern sky in around 9100 BCE. At Chichen Itza, the Maya built El Castillo with 4 staircases of 91 steps each, plus the top platform, 365 steps in total. On the spring and autumn equinoxes, the northwest corner of the pyramid casts a sequence of triangular shadow segments down the northern balustrade. Those segments connect with a carved stone serpent head at the pyramid's base. For 3 hours and 22 minutes, the complete figure reads as a feathered serpent descending. The pyramid was engineered so that sunlight, at a precise angle available only twice per year, performs the ritual automatically. No priest, no declaration, no human error. In County Meath, Ireland, a passage tomb built around 3200 BCE sits in near total darkness for all but 5 days each year. Above its entrance, a narrow stone aperture, the roof box, opens onto a 19-meter passage leading straight to the burial chamber. For all but 5 days each year, that chamber sits in complete darkness. On the winter solstice, December 21st, sunrise light enters that aperture at 8:58 in the morning and travels the full length of the passage. The chamber fills with light for exactly 17 minutes. Then the angle shifts, and the stone goes dark again for another year. Its builders observed solstice sunrises across multiple years, calculated the exact angle of incidence, and shaped the stone to match. 5,200 years ago without metal tools. The Maya tracked time on 2 independent wheels running simultaneously. One cycle counted 260 days, used for ritual, divination, and ceremony. The other counted 365 days, the solar year that governed agriculture and the seasons. Neither wheel was subordinate to the other. They ran together, meshing like gears. Because 260 and 365 share a greatest common divisor of 5, the 2 cycles realigned to their shared starting point only after 18,180 days, exactly 52 solar years. That 52-year period is the calendar round. A single date designation repeated roughly once per human lifetime, meaning most people never lived to see their birth date recur in the combined system. For tracking spans longer than 52 years, the Maya used a separate mechanism entirely, the long count, a linear count of days stretching back to a fixed mythological origin point. The calendar round handled a lifetime. The long count handled history. 2 tools, built for 2 different scales of time. The 260-day cycle carried ritual weight and religious meaning. The precision was also real. The Maya did not choose between symbolic and functional. They built a system that was both simultaneously. The long count extended that system far beyond a single human lifetime. Where the calendar round cycled through 52 years, the long count tracked a continuous, linear count of days, each one numbered sequentially from a fixed starting point, without reset. A single long count date encodes exactly how many days have elapsed since that origin. Astronomers and epigraphers reading Maya inscriptions can convert any long count position into a precise Julian or Gregorian date. The system handles spans of thousands of years in a single unbroken sequence. That was the design, not a wheel that resets, but a ruler that keeps extending. Maya astronomers tracked the Venus synodic cycle, 583.92 days, to an accuracy of 1 day per 6,000 years, working entirely with naked eyes and generations of recorded observation. Maya astronomers tracked 405 consecutive lunations, complete cycles of the moon, and recorded that they totaled 11,160 days. Divide that out and you get a lunar month of 29,586 days. The modern measured value is 29,53059 days. The difference is roughly 24 seconds per month. That is the margin of error accumulated across generations of naked eye observation. No telescopes, no atomic clocks, no instruments beyond fixed stone markers, and meticulous records passed from one cohort of observers to the next. Those records were not kept in books. The Maya inscribed their lunar counts on stelae, stone monuments raised in public plazas carved to outlast every perishable medium. The lunar series etched into those stones tracks the moon's age within a specific astronomical cycle, carrying the accumulated count forward in permanent form. Observers watched moonrise positions from the same stations year after year, correcting the numbers when the count drifted. The drift eventually stopped. When a civilization encodes a lunar calendar accurate to 24 seconds per month, carved in stone, inherited across generations, refined until the era flatlines, the word primitive loses its grip on the conversation. Of the written records Maya astronomers produced, almost none survived. Bishop Diego de Landa ordered the burning of Maya books at Mani in July 1562. 27 codices went into that fire. Only 4 glyphic books are known to have survived to the present day. Centuries of recorded observation, lunar cycles, Venus tables, eclipse predictions, reduced to ash by a single afternoon's order. The 4 that remain are held in Dresden, Madrid, Paris, and Mexico City. They are fragments. What they contain is enough to establish the precision documented in the preceding scenes. What burned at Mani is simply gone. Across every civilization that built to the sky, celestial alignment served one practical function above all others. It made power visible and undeniable. The Inca emperor held authority not through declaration, but through demonstrated command of the solar calendar, predicting events that governed every harvest, every season, every life. For a population with no mechanical model of the solar system, that darkness was not an event. It was the sun obeying someone. On May 28, 585 BCE, a solar eclipse ended a war. The Medes and Lydians had fought 5 years without resolution. A ruler who could predict one held authority that military force could not replicate. The monuments were permanent public proof. These alignments still fire. Every solstice, every equinox, every Sirius rising. Stone calendars carved into the earth itself, proof the sky answered to those who built here. An error of 0.05 degrees, 3 arc minutes. That is the gap between the Great Pyramid of Giza and perfect north. Not an approximation, a measured figure that held up under every modern instrument check run against it. Surveyors in the 20th century, working with optical theodolites, took years to approach that standard. The pyramid had already been standing there for 4.5 millennia. Kate Spence, an Egyptologist at the University of Cambridge, published a method that requires no compass and no GPS. Only 2 stars and a plumb line. The technique uses simultaneous transits. 2 circumpolar stars crossing the meridian at the same moment, one above and one below the celestial pole. A plumb line held in front of that pair defines true north. At the instant both stars align vertically. No instrument beyond a weighted string. No calculation beyond observation and patience. 2 circumpolar stars, Mizar in Ursa Major and Kochab in Ursa Minor, never dip below Egypt's horizon. Around 2520 BCE, they bracketed true north almost exactly. When those 2 stars aligned vertically, a surveyor held a plumb line against the night sky. Where the chord met the ground marked north. In 1901, sponge divers pulled a corroded bronze lump from a Roman shipwreck off Antikythera. It sat in the Athens National Museum for 50 years unexamined. When high-resolution X-ray tomography was applied to the object in 2005, its interior became visible for the first time. What the scans revealed stopped researchers cold. Dozens of interlocking bronze gears, differential mechanisms, graduated dials, all of it sealed inside a corroded lump no larger than a shoebox pulled from a Roman shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera. Inside, at least 37 interlocking bronze gears, some with teeth just 2 millimeters wide, modeling the motion of the sun, moon, and 5 known planets with documented accuracy. It predicted solar and lunar eclipses on a 19-year metonic cycle. It tracked the 4-year Olympiad schedule. It was built approximately 100 BCE. Nothing of comparable mechanical sophistication appears anywhere in the archaeological record for the next 1,400 years. The Greeks built it. They lost the knowledge entirely. In the Egyptian Sahara, roughly 700 miles south of the Great Pyramid of Giza, a dry lakebed called Nabta Playa holds stone alignments that date to approximately 5000 BCE. That is more than 2,000 years before the pyramids at Giza were raised. The people who arranged these stones were nomadic cattle herders. No permanent settlements, no writing system, no known state apparatus. They built anyway. A circle of stones sits at the site's center, oriented toward the summer solstice sunrise. Individual standing stones nearby appear to align with specific bright stars visible on the southern horizon during that era. Astronomers and archaeologists remain in active disagreement about the full extent of the site's astronomical intent. What is not in dispute? The stones are deliberate, they are old, and they are aimed at the sky. The pattern was not born in the age of pharaohs. It was already there when Egypt was still learning to farm. McKim Malville determined that these stones point toward the summer solstice sunrise. A sightline carved into the landscape by nomadic cattle herders with no permanent settlements. The alignment told them precisely when to move their herds, before the rains came, before the basin ran dry. Not ritual. Knowledge too dangerous for human memory alone, so they pressed it into stone, where it would outlast every individual who understood it. Built so that even if the people who raised them were gone, the knowledge would remain, locked in alignment, waiting for whoever came next. 5 civilizations, no shared language, no known trade route, no written correspondence between them. Each one built its most important structure to face a celestial event that returns on a fixed, predictable schedule. The standard explanation is parallel cognitive evolution, the human brain confronting the same sky, converging on the same engineering answer independently. Anthony Aveni, a foundational figure in the field of archaeoastronomy, has pressed on that answer. The specific events these cultures chose are not random celestial targets. Solstices, equinoxes, the Pleiades, Venus, Sirius, the same short list drawn from thousands of possible targets in the sky, appearing across 5 unconnected civilizations in the foundations of the same monuments. That convergence has no clean resolution in the current archaeological record. In 1994, Robert Bauval published The Orion Mystery, arguing that the 3 pyramids of Giza mirror the belt stars of Orion, not as they appeared in 2500 BCE when the pyramids were built, but as they stood in 10,500 BCE, 8,000 years earlier. The claim attracted serious popular attention. It also drew immediate, rigorous pushback from professional archaeoastronomers. Ed Krupp and Anthony Farrell demonstrated that to make the pyramids match Orion's belt, Bauval's map had to be flipped. South placed where north should be. The visual match dissolves the moment the map is held the correct way up. That is not a minor objection. The alignment data, the offset between the pyramids, is real and measurable. What it was intended to encode remains genuinely unresolved. The chamber at Newgrange is sealed in total darkness. Stone walls press in on every side, wet with condensation, cold enough to see your breath. Then at 8:58 in the morning on December 21st, the roof box aperture above the entrance catches the first ray of the winter solstice sunrise. A narrow shaft of light enters the passage and travels the full 19 meters toward the inner chamber. The stone walls that have held near total darkness through the long winter give it a corridor. It advances without pause, without deviation. Along the exact axis the builders cut into the hill 5,000 years ago. Around the solstice, for several days on either side of December 21st, that light reaches the chamber floor. The phenomenon window spans roughly 5 weeks total. But the deepest penetration, the fullest illumination, arrives at the solstice itself. The builders did not aim for an approximate season. They aimed at a specific sunrise at a specific angle, and they cut the stone to match. The triple spiral petroglyphs carved into the back wall illuminate. For exactly 17 minutes the sun reaches the dead, then the angle shifts and the chamber goes dark. The builders of New Grange left no writing. They left this, an aperture cut to one morning once a year, 200 years ago. The Library of Alexandria burned more than once. Fires in 48 BCE and again across several centuries until nothing certain remained. In 1562, at Mani, in the Yucatan, Spanish friar Diego de Landa ordered 27 Maya codices burned in a single public bonfire. He burned the corpses of the dead, 5,000 statues in every codex his soldiers could find, centuries of astronomical records, gone inside one afternoon. Only 4 Maya codices survived. Of the books that existed before the Spanish arrived, 4 made it through. Those 4 are now held in Dresden, Madrid, Paris, and Mexico City. They are fragments of a system that took centuries to build and an afternoon to destroy. The monuments survive. The manuals that built them do not. What these civilizations understood about the sky, the stone still holds. The words are ash. The winter solstice sunrise at New Grange still enters the roof box each December 21st. But not quite as it did when the tomb was sealed. Precession has shifted the angle slightly. 5,000 years ago, the first ray entered precisely at sunrise. Today it arrives about 4 minutes after. The mechanism still fires. The calculation still holds, within the tolerance of a few minutes across 52 centuries. Stone moved once by people with antler picks, aimed at a sun that has since drifted 4 minutes across the horizon. And the light still finds the chamber. Sirius still rises heliacally over the Nile Valley each summer, its first pre-dawn appearance arriving on roughly the same schedule the Egyptians built their calendar around. Twice a year, on the spring and autumn equinoxes, the northwest corner of El Castillo at Chichen Itza casts its triangular shadow sequence down the northern balustrade. The builders are gone. The celestial events they encoded are not. The sky runs on its own schedule, indifferent to every civilization that has risen or collapsed beneath it. Earth's axial precession has shifted the stars slowly over millennia. Thuban no longer marks celestial north. The Pleiades no longer rise where they once did on a June horizon. The cycles continue. Every solstice, every equinox, the monuments perform the calculation their builders locked into stone. These are not relics waiting to be studied. They are instruments still operating. The stone has not forgotten what the builders demanded of it. The sky is the same sky. The builders have been dust for 100 generations. The monuments are still pointing at it. The monuments raise no final answer. They raise a harder question, not why ancient peoples considered the sky sacred, but what they understood about it, that made building to it the most rational act their civilizations could perform. The instruments are still running. Earth's axis is still shifting. In roughly 13,000 years, Thuban will return to the celestial north. The ancient temples will already be pointing at it.